This is War Map. After just a month of fierce battles, one of the main strongholds of the armed forces of Ukraine on the eastern Zaporizhia direction, Hulyaipole, was liberated. The battles for it began in November, and on December 27th, Vladimir Putin was reported on the final liberation of the city, which is confirmed by footage of objective control with numerous flags. 57 and 60 separate motorized rifle brigades, 114 motorized rifle regiment, 127 division of the 5th Army, 38 separate motorized rifle brigade of the 35th Army cleared the central and western part of the city, breaking the resistance of scattered groups of the armed forces of Ukraine. Problems with local management, the practice of false reports and abandoning positions without firing led to a rather rapid collapse of the Ukrainian defense on a very wide section of the front line, according to the Southern Military District. The liberation of Gulipole will allow to free up significant forces and significantly expand the foothold on the left bank of the Gulipole. Now, the Dalnevostochny soldiers will have to clear the pocket near Dorozhniki before continuing the offensive westward towards Orekov. An attack on this city from the flank will allow to bypass the vast majority of the armed forces of Ukraine's strongholds without storming them head-on. Moreover, Gulipole was and remains a very important defense node on the eastern flank of the entire Zaporizhia direction. Gulipole, the birthplace of the legendary Makhno, is located in the steppe zone 90 kilometers east of the regional capital, Zaporizhia. Its population on January 1, 2022 was just 12.8 thousand people. With the beginning of the war, the armed forces of Ukraine turned it into the center of a powerful defense line and one of their three main fortresses, along with Orekov and Stepnogorsk, on the way to Zaporizhia. Attack on Zaporizhia. The liberation of this city will be the prelude to the beginning of the siege of Zaporizhia. Gulipole is one of the three large cities on the only defense line on the entire Zaporizhia direction. From the south, the city is protected by another line of Ukrainian fortifications along the Gulipole River, and its breakthrough by the Russian army will open the way for an offensive to Orekov, and then to the regional capital, Zaporizhia. Russian troops from Gulipole will be able to quickly pass the remaining 32 kilometers to Orekov through the rear areas. With the fall of Gulipole, Stepnogorsk, and Orekov, the armed forces of Ukraine will lose all the points they could have held on to up to Zaporizhia. Meanwhile, Russian troops completed the clearing of Mirnograd, Dmitrov, and raised the tricolors in several parts of the city. Moreover, some soldiers put on Santa Claus costumes for the new year and met the civilians who had waited for the liberation. Mirnograd became not the only liberated city. Units of the Center military operation established control over Rodinsk, for which there were heavy battles for several months. It was the last supply routes of the garrison of Mirnograd before the physical encirclement of the city, and therefore the AFU regularly attempted to restore positions in this settlement. The clearing of the Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration marked a symbolic end of 2025. The battle, which lasted for more than a year, is over. As a result, Russian troops have established control over one of the largest strongholds of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Donbass and can now regroup before a further offensive to the northwest of the Donetsk People's Republic. Most likely, it will be directed at Dobropili. Moreover, as practice shows and as once again stated by Vladimir Putin, the Kiev regime is clearly not inclined to negotiate. Therefore, the Russian army will continue to liberate the historical territories of Donetsk in 2026. The battle for Kupansk. The situation in Kupansk continues to be difficult. There have been recent evidence of the presence of Russian troops in the industrial zone on the northeastern outskirts of the city. Moreover, several fighters passed through Lenin Street. Information is confirmed about the Russian army's holding of the northern and northeastern outskirts. Even despite the large-scale deployment of personnel by the armed forces of Ukraine, all-or-nothing attempt, the AFU has not been able to establish full control over Kupansk. Boris Rosen writes that against the backdrop of failures on the southern front, the Ukrainian command may attempt to demonstrate the installation of flags in Kupansk. Moreover, the stability of the bridgehead in the Kalinovo area, where the AFU was able to penetrate into the Russian positions earlier, remains unclear. And there's no need for the Ukrainian armed forces to carry the yellow-blue banners into the center of Kupiansk. Thanks to false reports from Russian command about the full liberation of the city, even the raising of flags in the Yubileyny micro-district in the south of the city will be an information victory for Ukraine, undoing all the work done by Russian soldiers for nearly 3 years. Until next update.